In this video, I will be installing my doorknob onto a brand new virgin solid core hardwood door. The hardware I have is an antique doorknob set, but the process is very similar, minus the diameter of the hole you drill through the face of the door to the modern day $8 lock set you can buy from the box store. So this will be applicable to both. The first step in the job will be to determine at what height your doorknob set will go. To determine this, you'll try to identify the center of your strike plate on your jamb and mark the corresponding location on the front where you can see it. The next step will be to transcribe that mark to your door and take a square of some sort and continue to mark along. While it is totally possible to install your doorknob on the door while it is hung using one of these doorknob hardware jigs, I'm going to opt for taking it off the wall and putting it into my door vise jig, clamp, whatever, so I can have added accuracy, stability, and control over this. Because these doors, believe it or not, retail for several hundred to $400. So I just don't want to take the risk of boogering it up by having a wobbly rocking door. Be sure to put your hinge pins someplace so you can find them again, either back in the door hinge or on the door jamb itself. I will clamp the door to hold it steady. Alright, the first part we will be installing is the dead latch. And that has to be centered in the door and set down flush. To accomplish this, we're going to have to use a hole saw. And the hole saw, as you can see, is right at 1 inch. The difference between the antique hardware and the new hardware is the spindle in this one only comes in at about 3/8 of an inch at its widest part, so a 1/2 inch hole will give you some wiggle room so you can find the square input in the dead latch. If this was modern hardware, it would be calling for us to use this bad boy, which comes in right at 2 1/8 inches. Dead center on this square comes in right at 2 3/8 inches. But we set our square to 2 3/8, and that will allow us to determine the center where to drill our 1/2 inch hole for the spindle on the knob to go through. The next thing, we might as well go ahead and determine the center of the door. Alright, it's 1 3/8 inch wide. That means we need 11/16 would make a half. 11/16 from one direction. Then we'll mark 11/16 from another direction. They lined up. So then we'll take our hole. There you go, there's the center. Mark it. We're still in the center. Make it a little more obvious. And that'll be a good way to start with the hole saw. So this is the part that should really scare the shit out of you. This is a 1-inch hole saw going into a 1 3/8 inch door. There's only 3/16 on either side, so if you get, sideways in there, it's very likely that you could pop through the outside. So you got to do everything in your power going straight. Look at it from any angle you need to, and take your time. Just make sure you're not effing up. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, we're dead center. All right. And once you start to get kind of deep, you can break off part that you've been cutting on, make it a little easier to continue on down. Alright, I'm pulling out a second piece. In order to understand how deep you need to go, just compare the two depths. I need to go deeper than what this hole saw will allow me to do. Might have to choke up on it, get a little bite, push down. Alright, now that I have taken out this much, I'm just a little shy from the bottom, and I think I'll be able to just chisel that rectangle out to get the rest of it. I'm also going to go ahead and drill the hole for my spindle. I know I said I was going to drill a 1/2-inch hole, but I'm going to actually drill a 3/8, and if I need more, I will just wallow it out a little bit. So let me get that thing started. I'm going to do it from both sides because I've had some problems. These doors are a mix of hardwood, veneer, and various other things. These coming from a big box store, they're just absolutely full of lies about what they're made of. And I've had problems with the veneer chipping off the other side as I puncture it with the drill bit. So I'm just going to drill from both sides, save myself the hassle. So since this particular product is so deep, I'm going to stop my hole where it's at and just chisel out this rectangle. I'm going to start by marking it out. It should be easy because there's already a hole in it from the tip of the hole saw. Alright, now that the dead strike fits in there, we need to chisel out a little seat for it. Relieve this door of some of its wood. So what I'm going to do, more or less, just hold this very steady, and I'm going to mark where it goes. All right, I think that's picking it up. You can see the rectangle mark I made, and it's very near, or I guess exactly on the edge of my hole. So now I'm going to remove the excess material. I am not an expert with a chisel, but I will try my darndest. Here I am, non-expert, doing what I think I've seen other people do. I probably should have watched a YouTube video before I did this, so I know if I was doing it right. That really seems to be going pretty good. I can always take more later if I need it. This isn't a race. Is that deep enough and big enough everywhere? It appears to be. I'll take off just a little more up here. Oh, I don't think my hole on the inside is quite deep enough. So I'm going to give it a little bit of help. Voila! Flush! Make it through on that side. I think I need to go just a little bit deeper, and that'll allow it to get a little more flush. All right, with the dead latch fitting securely, it's time to consider orientation of your rose cover. What I like to do is sort of pretend to install it, either eyeball up or down, or get a measurement and mark proper orientation up and down so your rose will sit nice and even. And then on the other side you would do the same. Screw this in. I'm not ready to put the hardware on this door just yet because it's going to be coming on and off a few more times. I still need to do flooring in this room, and probably will have to cut the bottom of the door off before it's all said and done. And just to save some possible damage to my hardware, it's not going to be finished installed. I have an example of a finished one. I'll show you. Alright, so here's an example of a complete doorknob. These knobs, what I have done is I've taken lacquer thinner and I removed the little varnish that was on them best I could, and then I scrubbed them down with the SOS pad. I'm looking to get them to kind of have that original hardware look and feel to it. A little antique patina, never hurt anybody. But it's in there nice and tight. See that? It's all nice and tight. A rose on either side. Oil this up. Oil the dead latch up so it works well. And there's the finished example. I tried my hardest to get these screws lined up perfectly up and down, and on this one I got a little off kilter. So on the door, when I finish that one that we were working on, I'm going to actually take measurements and pre-drill my holes to fit perfectly. Luckily this is on the inside, so I won't have to see it very often, being as this is my my daughter's room. Now remember, if you had been looking for a video to install more modern style hardware, what I did here is almost identical to what you would need to do to install one of these. The only difference is you would be using your 2 1/8 hole saw. I'll get this open. And instead of drilling the tiny little hole that I did, you'd be drilling this big bad mamma jamma through the door. So the only difference between installing the antique hardware that I have and the new is the size of the hole on the face of the door.